Eremos is more than a name. It's a way of life. It's our sanctuary, our escape from the noise, and our connection to the deeper meaning of our lives. It's about finding joy in the outdoors, seeking growth, and leaving the world a better place than we found it. Welcome to Elevate and Explore, a podcast where we dive into the beauty of nature, self-discovery, and the endless possibilities that come with living intentionally. Welcome to our journey.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Elevate and Explore podcast. I am your co-host, Ryan Bailey.
And I am Aaron Baker.
And tonight we bring you an exciting guest, Michael Rosenberg. Also, we're going to refer to you as Mike now that we found your preferred name.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
It's a pleasure. So, just to jump into it quick, it sounds like you and Aaron have been kind of courting around some of these business meetings and different events and seminars and just kind of getting a feel for challenging yourself. So if you don't mind, can we get a brief story? Where are you at in life now and what brought you there?
Sure. Yeah, I'm at a really amazing transition in my life, turning my story and all my experience and expertise into a professional speaking career. And it's a new level of growth with me. And the short of my backstory is I was a guy who spent about 15 years in the corporate world, 11 of those in B2B sales, knocking on doors, getting rejected, burning out, having to hit the numbers, really chasing an idea of success that I heard was the American dream, that I heard from society. And all those years I was just burning out over and over. Almost the harder I worked, the harder I tried, the worse I felt, the more complicated about myself and my life that I felt. And I found myself really placing my worthiness as a measuring bar in the corporate world, right? If I sold something, I was up on cloud 9, and if I didn't sell, I felt like I should be fired because I was made to feel that way a lot of times. So it was just this emotional roller coaster ride, really trying to find my place in the world. And I had always heard this idea about purpose, which really intrigued me. And I said, wow, we have a purpose in life? What is this about? And I have different views about what that is now, but that was my driving force to leave this environment that I knew was just all wrong for me, but I couldn't figure out like where I fit in the world and what my gifts were. And eventually I had a spiritual awakening around 2015 that just started culminating, and lots of things happened in my life, and new people and events and personal development work and spirituality all came in. And eventually in 2019, I got inspired to make this big life leap, and we can get into that story. It has a little something to do with swimming with wild dolphins. And I essentially decided I'm done with this. I'm not going back to corporate life. I got inspired by nature and wanting to travel and see the world. And so I sold everything in my life. I cashed out my 401k retirement fund, and I went traveling for what I hoped would be 2 years as a random number, but turned into 4 years through 14 countries, and sitting with shamans and healers and different communities and indigenous people, and eventually came into speaking. And now I share that story and all my lessons on stage, and I create group programs with people as well to help them tap into their most truest selves.
Now, when you were deciding you wanted to, leave corporate America and, go on this journey, what type of fears did you have, and how did you overcome them?
That's a great question. I had tremendous fear of the unknown, fear of not having stability in my life, of leaving a job that had a steady salary, that had benefits. I always felt that I couldn't leave because I just didn't feel I had any particular skill set to plug in anywhere else, or I didn't major in anything else that really lit me up. So it's like I just didn't know what road to take. I knew what got me excited, and I knew that my passion was going to be traveling based off of a few prior experiences. But I feared, what if this doesn't work? What if it all comes crashing down? What if I spend all my money and I failed and I was a failure and I have nothing to do next? It was like all of the worst case scenarios came. Also, never having traveled, never having really traveled alone, and how would I survive, and how would I make it, and all the things that come to that. But that whole experience deepened my faith, and it was my faith to what I consider my higher power that was really the foundation through all of it. The more fear, the more I moved through the fear, the deeper my faith went and let me know that I was going to be okay and I would be provided for through all of it.
That's
Now,
fantastic.
did you have a backup plan or anything, or you just say, screw it, I'm going to make it happen no matter what?
You know what? I said, look, worst case scenario, I could come back and just get another sales job somewhere. Somebody would accept me. But I knew that the pain of sitting where I was much greater than the fear of the unknown. And that if I stayed there, it's like the Matrix when they give him the red pill, blue pill, Neo, and they say, hey, you already know what's down that path. You know, that's I think the red pill. And then the blue pill, maybe I got the colors mixed. But anyway, the one that takes you down the rabbit hole is like the unknown. So I just said, I was like, everything always works out. I always fear stuff that that never actually comes true. And at the very least, I'm going to get to fulfill a dream and have no what ifs. And I knew that that would feel great, like really going after it and making a move no matter what happened. Nobody could take that away from me.
How old were you when you had this realization that you had, purpose and you wanted to make this courageous shift and try something new, if you don't mind me asking?
Sure. I was 37 years old. And I think the age I did it was a little bit significant because a lot of people go traveling in their 20s. Maybe they get out of college, they go on like a little trip before they get into the working world. I left at a time where, a lot of people told me I shouldn't, and that I should be stacking and saving and focused on retirement and all these things. But I had nothing tying me down at the time. Didn't have a relationship. Was renting an apartment, a car, and I said, if I want to do this, and maybe one day I want family, I better do this now, And it was really, I had been building for about 7 years. I had been on this personal development, spiritual path, looking within, and I feel that's what got me to this point at 37, where I told myself, age is just this number that society puts in your head where you're supposed to have certain things by. I got to follow my heart and what's calling to me now.
Well, that's really great. And, just that age thing is just a number. And, there's so many success stories, whether we're starting over at, say, 27, 37, 47. It's just the reality that you want to make the shift and try something new. And, I was talking with somebody the other day about it, where they talked about having this stable job for, 5-7 years, whatever it was. And they just got really comfortable with it. And they couldn't imagine leaving, that they've worked so hard for 5 to 7 years to get to this point. When in reality, if they just, actually pursue a passion and try something new, it may take weeks, it may take months, it might even take 5 or 7 years working towards that common goal, but the outcome is going to be so much greater. And that time in is not always time out. It's once you put it in, it doesn't come back. So you might as well do something you enjoy.
Yeah, you remind me. I saw this Instagram reel of a guy talking. I think he was like a psychologist the other day, and he's in his 50s, and he's like, I'm restarting. And he was excited and celebrating that and talking about what a healthy thing it is to restart, no matter how many times at any age. But society has this tendency, or a lot of us are made to feel growing up, that no, it's a bad thing. There's this instability. You should be like well off and built and in your thing, as you get a little older in years. And I love what he was saying. He said, no, actually, to grow, you're going to grow out of whatever you are currently doing. And to meet the next version of yourself, you got to try something new. Always. Doesn't matter what age you are. It's a beautiful, healthy thing.
I've learned, I'm in my 30s now. I just turned 32, and I quit my corporate job at 27. And I had all these skills that I had built up and things that I knew. And I've been so fixated on that. That's the only thing I've ever known. And I would say the past 2 years, I've actually focused on trying to build business and understand more and get this new side of it. And it completely opens your eyes. Like all the stuff that you knew before is just a very small portion of what is going to potentially make you successful, make you grow, force change. And it's really inspiring.
Yeah, congratulations to you, Ryan. That's such a bold move. And like we're always gaining skills. Like you have skills, right? From whatever the corporate world was or whatever business you're building now and whatever next step that you take. And I think a lot of our skills, even in things we didn't like, end up playing some kind of role or having some type of value and add to our total experience. Like we could do something 10 years down the line and say, well, thank God I did that thing 12 years ago where I had that experience. That's going to help me now. I never thought it would.
You know, ironically enough, whatever you're doing now probably has some sales background to it.
So I like that you said this, because this is the funny thing. Guys, I hated sales so much that I held a lot of negative energy on it for a very long time. And the me version now knows that that's not really a healthy thing, because there's a part of my past that I wasn't making peace with. And I feel it's very important to make peace with all parts of ourselves and to integrate those parts. And I've had a mentor say, Mike, when you integrate that sales career in that past and you make peace with that, you're going to feel so much more solid in yourself. And now I am actually, you know, as a speaker and a coach and all that, I got to sell myself, and I've got to prospect, and I've got to call, and I got to put myself out there. But now I get to do it with something I'm passionate about. But I have that hustle background. I have that work mentality and that gift of gab that I learned from all those years. And I'm learning to make peace with those parts of myself and say, you know what, that wasn't for nothing. Like it got me right where I am now. And it was very helpful.
Yeah, now you're just selling yourself, whereas before you were selling a product or a widget or something. Now you have something that you can fully 1000% stand behind, and it's just you that you're putting out there.
Exactly. And I didn't believe in all those products back then. So it feels a little better now. Yeah.
I can imagine.
Now you mentioned just not feeling passionate about it and kind of hating it and having some resentment towards whatever you were doing at the time. And, I think just looking back on a lot of the things that I said I didn't like or I wasn't good at, I didn't do them with enough intention. And in our case, today's world, we're so based off gratification and dopamine. Like every time you pull up those Instagram reels, you're getting a hit. But sometimes the biggest hit that we get is just doing something we enjoy. And even if we're making money or not making money, it's just that is the most fulfilling thing that we could be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautifully said. Totally agree. Yeah.
So I'd like to, go back and, hear a little bit more about your traveling journey. When you left the States, where did you go? What did you do? What was your plan? Did you have a plan?
I had no plan whatsoever. And I thought that was the greatest thing, because I came from this world where there was always a plan. And in the corporate environment, there's a lot of structure. And they say, do it this way and you'll have success, and stay in the guidelines and all the things, hit your numbers, think like this, speak like this. So I was just over that. And I wanted to just kind of leave things up to fate and to chance. So I had this theory at the time, for the little bit that I was learning about energy and the law of vibration and manifestation. And I just thought to myself, I said, all right, we attract who we are in our life. That's essentially what manifestation is. It's like who you're being, you attract that vibe of energy. So, like be open, be your best self, Mike, be your highest self. Like, let's find passion, excitement, joy, because if I can get in that state, then naturally I thought my purpose would be attracted to me, because it wasn't happening when I was always down and out and frustrated in the environment that I was in corporate. So I was like, what would do that for me? What kind of environment? And I said, travel. I'd be so inspired by seeing the world that I would be so lit up that vibration, being in that, would attract what's meant for me. This was like my whole theory. And I wrote a letter to God or the universe or whatever you want to call it, something different every time. And I said, I said, God, guide me. I'm yours. Send in all the resources, the people, the places, the geographic locations, the teachers, everything I need to learn. Turn me inside out and connect me to my true calling on the other side of this journey. And I read it out loud on my first YouTube video. And like, that was it. I wrote a letter. I learned how to use some camera gear. I had a little GoPro. I'm kind of giving you the whole backstory here. Like I thought I was going to be a travel vlogger on YouTube and monetize it and make money and all this. You always start with one idea. It usually doesn't end up being that. And I was very interested in energy and spirituality. So I said, I want to go to really high vibrational places, like vortexes on the planet that would do something to the human body and help rearrange me in some kind of way. So right as I was thinking that, I had a spiritual teacher who was running a mystery school call me and ask me if I wanted to be a part, where we would learn different occult wisdom online over the weeks, but we would also go to 4 epicenters for like vortexes, really high energy on the planet over the span of 2 years. And I was like, this is crazy. This is a synchronicity. I wanted to go to these kind of places anyway. And I said I wanted to travel 2 years. So she like just brought in this infrastructure as I was saying yes to this calling, this journey. So I ended up meeting up with the group in these places. It was Bolivia, it was England, Stonehenge, Egypt was one of them. But at first, I was like, where could I go in the US that's just close where I could start? And I picked Sedona, Arizona. And what happened is I never knew where I was going to go next. Something always came in, like an invitation or a synchronicity through a video on Instagram, or I met someone that would tell me about somewhere they'd just been. And I'd be like, wow, that sounds amazing. Maybe I'll go there. And I did the first 4 months in the Western United States, just going through national parks and mountains and like Crater Lake in was it Utah, Oregon, something like that. The Redwoods. I camped on Mount Shasta, spent a month on Lake Powell, Arizona. And I absolutely fell in love with nature. Like for the first time in my life, I could feel the stress and the need to always be productive starting to melt off of me. And I got to just be in silence in nature. And I completely fell in love with hiking. And I got to see the beauty really of this country and mountains in a way that I never have before. And eventually then I left and I got out and I started in Costa Rica, Guatemala, Bolivia. I went to England, France, Portugal, Israel, Egypt. I lived in the desert with a nomad in a cave for 3 weeks in Wadi Rum, Jordan. Lived in Peru on and off for 2 years. Bali, Vietnam, Japan, and I eventually circled back to the US where I am now.
That's amazing.
Everything you just said, for anybody listening, just go back and listen to the last, say, 5 to 7 minutes of that. The first thing that you said was talking about, what you are is what you attract. I shit you not. I was driving down the road hours ago, and I was thinking of like just random stuff. And it's like, well, if, typically, and don't ask me where this thought came from, I'm just going to spit it out, is like, you watch all these country music singers dating country music singers, and you watch these actors and actresses, they're always dating. And you talk about these big successful business people and they're friends with big successful business people. And it just brought up that root of everything that you just said, of that synchronicity of just believing in yourself, pouring into yourself, altering yourself in every which way that you possibly can to find the people that you're supposed to be around. And that's just it's so incredible, everything that you just said, on top of the amazing places and mountains and lakes and streams. It just hits home on so many levels.
Yeah, I just got chills as you were saying that. It's so true. It's one of my biggest lessons in this journey was that when you meet the universe or God or nature or like your destiny in this life, when you make the hard move first and you pull up to the table proper and you say, I'm ready, like, let's do it. I have no idea how this looks, but like, this is what I want. This is my intention. This is who I want to be. Those doors then open. The universe comes to you and says, he's sending us the signal that he really means it. And he's clear, even if he doesn't know where it's going. So then the mystical powers that be come and provide all those doorways and paths. And the path is self-illuminating, meaning that every step you take lights up the next step, right? And we tend to, like you said, just meet the people that are like us, that we're thinking about, that we know that are going to be our vibe, that we can raise up together. Yeah.
Well, the
Yeah, I
other
used to
thing that
be
you
so.
go
Go
ahead, go
ahead.
ahead.
I used to be so skeptical of manifestation. Just what a load of crap this is. And once I started living intentionally and figuring out what I want out of life and how I want to be and bettering myself and doing self-development, and once I started getting into this higher vibration, all these things I started becoming, all these other things started attracting to me, people, opportunities, situations. And it's just, I fully believe in it now. We all vibrate at different energies. And, once you figure things out and you vibrate high energy, you're going to bring those high energy things to you. It's such a neat occurrence. And I just have full faith in it anymore.
And
Yeah.
that it is kind of a controversial piece. You had mentioned talking about God and universe and almost as if there was a separation. But one of the first things you mentioned in the podcast was you had faith. You believed down to your bones that you had faith in something. And when we talk about faith and traveling and seeing different, religions and spending time with people who probably had a lot of that in their culture, I myself find myself now more spiritual, religious, believing in God than I ever have. And I feel like in our darkest moments, in the times of challenge or, the times where we're actually being tested to persevere through something, we have that same time where we write everything down and say, God, if you're listening, show me, help me, guide me, teach me something, open up the doors. And it's that belief in faith and our forming relationship with God. I think early on we all are aware that there's a God, or we're told there's a God, and we don't actually see it opened up until you have that reckoning moment where it's like, I asked for this and it is here in front of me in the flesh. Like everything that the Bible tells us is exactly a story about that if you believe something, you ask for something, you work for something, no matter how many times we get kicked down and stoned or have to persevere through a challenge, it's evident and obvious that there's somebody else out there working in our favor, as long as we have that faith and the belief that something will work.
Yeah, man. I really live my life by faith, and I feel that everybody can have whatever makes them feel most connected to the power that breathes through all of us. And I feel that humans always kind of have this need to understand and to put everything in a box and put a definition on it and be like, okay, it's this, but it's not this. Like, I don't think that that's important. I think that, like, whatever you feel that helps you feel more connected, more to yourself, more whatever, is where it's at. Like you said, there's no separation. God, universe, whatever you want to call it. One word just might relate differently to different people, but this was one of the beautiful things that I learned about traveling, is I got to see all the different ways which people pray, all the different ways which people experience spirituality. I spent time on mountaintops with shamans and in South America, where they speak to the mountains, the spirits of the mountains and the land, and that dictates their life. I was with Islam in a cave in Wadi Rum, Jordan, with the Bedouin and learning how he prays. I went to Israel, the homecoming, experienced all kinds of beauty and adversity. And I had this wild experience where I met Krishna, and I was like, I didn't even know what Krishna was or where that came from, but I was in one of my darkest, most depressed moments out there. And it's actually another wild synchronicity story, how like that I'll call representation or face of God, because there are many, 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 found me when I had no like preconceived notion of what it was. So I think what I want to say by all that is faith is a deeply personal experience. And the key word there is experience. We're usually just taking other people's ideas or what we heard, until we have this experience like you've both shared, like, whoa, something just happened. I can't quite explain it. It's beyond maybe my understanding, or I may not have the vocabulary for it, but it's real through my experience. That's what allows us to keep going into faith, whatever it is for us.
Mm-hmm. Now, one question I had is you had just briefly highlighted some depressive moments. Do you feel that you've had a different interaction with those depressive moments through your purpose versus your, say, previous life, we'll call it, your corporate experiences?
That's a great question. Yes. In my corporate experience, I thought that life was always just kicking me in the balls. I just thought like I was a big victim and everything was happening to me and I couldn't catch a break. It's through spiritual and practice where I learned to switch the victim mentality to, oh, life's always happening for me. Or as a mentor of mine says, he said, life's always working either on you or for you, but either way it's working. When it's for you, it's like things might feel like they're really going your way. When it's on you, you're going through it, but it's rearranging you. And what I learned is in these depressive moments, they're what I need. And I've really been able to develop this mentality of like sending a lot of gratitude for whatever the situation is, however hard it is, because those are the situations that grow us in life. It's like, this is the thing that I need, that God has given me to unlock what I need to in myself. Because if I was in my comfort zone and it was any other way, I wouldn't move. So for me, I just got very depressed on the road, probably the darkest I've ever been. And I was in Portugal at the time and I couldn't figure out what was going on. I felt so lonely. And I'm a guy who's always been really good at doing life alone. I love me time. I didn't like to be around people too long. And can I share quickly just a little piece of this story?
Oh, of course.
Everything. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. So that teacher that created the mystery school, which is really a culmination of all types of ancient wisdom. They had ancient mystery schools back in the day that sages and ascended masters would go through, and they would learn kind of the secrets of the universe, and they would come back and help humanity. So we were learning different metaphysical things online, and she gave us all an assignment. About 30 of us, right? We all got assigned a different ascended master. So someone got Jesus, someone got the Buddha, someone got the Egyptian gods and goddesses. I got Krishna. And I was like, I don't know anything about Krishna. I know he's Hindu. I think I've seen the blue guy before, but that's it. 2 weeks later, I went to Portugal. I had this assignment. I didn't look anything up. And I was feeling so down and out, like the heaviest my heart ever felt. And I couldn't put my finger on it. I was moping through the streets, and a monk stopped me in my tracks, and he tried to hand me a book. And I tried to brush him off, and I said, no, I don't want the book, whatever. And I looked, and it was the Bhagavad Gita. And on the cover of it was Krishna. And I was like, whoa, I just got an assignment about Krishna. I was like, maybe this is something to follow. So I took the book. Came back and found the monk a couple days later. I said, hey, I'm sorry, I was really in a bad mood, but thank you so much for the book. He invited me to come chant with him and some of his Hare Krishna. ISKCON is an establishment. It's an organization called International Krishna Consciousness. So not really a religion, but kind of like a religion. It's their beliefs on things. And I went to chant with them. And I started learning chanting, and I had always wanted to learn chanting because I heard that it's very powerful and it helps connect you to yourself. So this led me on this road trip around Portugal. I kind of took off and went on a trip, and the monk hit me back and he said, hey, you should come chant with us again. And I said, I can't. I'm like 2 hours from where you were. He sends me the address. It's 2 minutes down the road from my hostel in this totally other town. So I go there, they have a fire lit, and they're all chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. It's like the whole chant. And I was just like crying because I was so depressed while they were all chanting around me. And that night, and so I started to feel embraced, and like people were showing up in my life when I needed it the most, when I needed to be held. And the monk says to me that night, he says, you should come with me to my spiritual master's birthday in 2 weeks in France. And I was like, nah, I shouldn't have tried to brush it off again. I was like, not for me. Anyway, there was another Krishna consciousness devotee that invited me to move in with him for a week because he said, I know you hate the hostels. I go into this guy's house to live with him, and there's Krishna all over the wall, paintings and portraits and statues. And I wake up every morning and he teaches me how to chant at 6 a.m. We're chanting about Krishna. So I end up presenting. We had to do a presentation for our class on our Ascended Master. I looked nothing up on the internet. I didn't even build a PowerPoint. Me and this guy got on camera that was the Krishna consciousness devotee, and I shared what I had been learning through him. And I was like, I think Krishna's finding me in my life. So then I decided to call the monk back, and I was like, you know what? Let's go. I'll take you up on the offer. I want to get out of Portugal anyway. I'm depressed. So he lines up this trip for us to take a 24-hour bus ride into France. This was like during COVID times too. And they have this massive castle in France in the middle of nowhere that is like a temple where the Hare Krishna devotees practice. Anyway, the monk gets COVID right before we left. I go by myself on this bus, 24 hours overnight. I get off and all the devotees are there to meet me. And I end up living in this huge, it's like an 1800s huge castle. For 3 weeks, I wake up every morning at 4 a.m. and I live like a monk with them. And we go down to the temple and we chanted for 2 hours. And I went into service and I lived like them and ate like them. And I had deep conversations that challenged my mind and my fears and all sorts of things. And it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. And I actually experienced my consciousness and things within my mind and body tangibly, physically opening the more that I chanted. So I'm like a Krishna guy at the end of the day. And look, I was raised Jewish. I went to Portugal because I heard they had nice Christmas lights, and I love Christmas lights, and I love Krishna. And I've been in South America, you know, and I could go on, but I felt that that experience, God was teaching me that we are not meant to do life alone. And in my most alone time, it's like God showed up in a form that I never saw coming. And I was like, this can't be real. I didn't go on the internet for this. And I was totally held, totally taken in, totally loved. And it's one of my best memories.
What a neat experience. I mean, you were just ready to walk by, and all it took was, opening your eyes and seeing something right in front of you that led you into an amazing journey over what, a month or two?
Yeah. And saying yes.
Yeah, had you just walked by, you would have never had that experience.
Right.
I 100% agree with you. I used to love to go through life alone. I'd like to hang out with people, but I never felt I needed a community behind me. Whatever I wanted to do, I could do it alone. And over the past year, I've went through a lot of changes. And I started thinking, maybe I do need a community. So I started, looking around, trying to find a spot, and that's when I ran into, Alex's community, Alex Lovely. And, I found that, and that has been so life-changing for me, just having that sense of community. I've met so many great people in there that I can reach out to for whatever, business, personal. It's so nice to have a group of like-minded people that you can reach out to at any time.
Yeah. And you had mentioned early on just about, human nature, about always being creative and wanting to have figure things out and understand things. And like one of the traits.
Did we lose him?
Uh-oh.
He's got no.
Oh, he's back.
You're back.
Did you repeat what you said, Ryan, about human nature?
Yeah, I said just the human nature of being human is we're social creatures. We want to be around people. We need to be around people. We want to, our love languages as people, the ways that we receive affection and kindness and care is through typically human interaction of some form. And, doing life alone is great. We get to, make our own schedule and be unbothered. But the reality is like the joy, the comfort and the camaraderie of being around good people that are like us. You can't find that anywhere else.
Totally. I think it's even a little counterintuitive sometimes, because I know for myself and for a lot of people, when we feel down and out or in some sort of way, sometimes it's a natural feeling to want to kind of hermit and close off the world, right? Because we might not feel at our best, or like people want to hear us or whatever. But I've often found that the remedy, the medicine to that is just reaching out to someone, or being in service, or like spending time with a couple guys like yourself. And there's something about the human connection that just, like you said, we're social creatures. It literally helps us move the energy. And I think even if you trace stories back through ancient texts like the Bible or whatever, this lesson's always been there. It's always been like, we're all different, but you're the same thing. So how do you come together in a way where you're all contributing, like, your power, your service, everything, because that's how it works best.
Oh, absolutely. And that is, that purpose that you talk about is, downright and dirty. The service of others is, yes, you're serving yourself. Yes, you're giving, a lot of love to yourself by doing what makes you happy and makes you feel good. But at the end of the day, if you're not supporting somebody else, then it's kind of all for nothing. It's a very selfish way to live, to just be isolated and alone and only care about yourself, when there are so many gifts from the people that you meet. You just rattled off, what was it, 14 countries and probably hundreds, if not thousands of people that you interacted with. And maybe some of that could have fulfilled yourself and you felt really good, but to get their experience and see the way that they have a culture and to bring that to others to share with, that's more powerful than any culmination of multiple thousands of dollars or millions of dollars of sales.
Yeah, I think that it's great what you say. I think that's I mean, there's a lot of purposes to life. You can frame it any way, but like one that I love is that our purpose is to give back what we've learned. And one of my mentors once told me, when I was like hesitating to put myself out there, she's like, Mike, you're full. I know you think you need to know more things and you're in your mind about that. She's like, but think about it. You're so full. It's like a container. What comes in the top has to go out the bottom and back into the world in which it came, because that's how nature works. So it's almost like you're either in the rhythm of the universe and nature, receiving and then giving, or we're hoarding, and sometimes it's unconscious because it's just fear that's having us hoard, but that's when the energy gets stuck and life stops moving.
Now, when you were going through that, doubting yourself that you didn't have anything to say, did you think you were going through some imposter syndrome where you just, doubted that, anybody wanted to hear your story, or you weren't worthy of telling your story? Did you go through anything like that?
Yeah, this is a great question, man. I'm glad you asked this, because this is what I've learned through speaking and through one of my mentors. And one of my mentors always says, his name is Nick Santanastasso. He says, the longer you don't share your story, the longer somebody out there stays suffering because they have not found you yet. Because people emotionally and genuinely relate to people that have walked in their shoes. And it's just not about what we say and how much we know. The real value is in lived experience. But myself and a lot of people that I've worked with often think, but who, me? My story's not valuable enough. What do I know, right? And simply you being here in a human body, a spirit in a human form, you have full purpose. You wouldn't be created if there wasn't a reason for you to be created. So there's plenty to share. And my mentor always says, he taught me this. He's like, who are you to think you could skip the imposter syndrome phase? And I was like, ooh, I was like, yeah, man. And he's like, dude, when you're a beginner, you have to suck for a little while and you have to feel like an imposter. That's part of the journey. So yes, I felt like that. I always had this subconscious belief that my memory wasn't very good, or that I wasn't really a linear thinker. So I had trouble in my mind, like placing things in a way that I thought people could understand them. And people would always tell me, they're like, no, you're fine, you're good. And I'm like, no, I don't know enough. I don't know how to put things together. I need more theories and more teachable things, because this is my idea of who people are. And the best feedback I've always gotten about myself is like, Mike, it ain't about any of that with you. You share from your heart and people feel it. That's what it's about, And the thing about even someone like me who traveled the world, look, it's not always that relatable. So many people think that their story's not valuable. But what's really relatable is the same stuff that's hard, that a lot of us go through. You don't need to travel the world to have a story. Like, your story is whatever you have overcome, whatever you have learned. It happens in the mundane, and it speaks to someone who's in that experience. So this is something that I've had to learn, and just simple, more experiences like this, like sitting here and sharing with you guys, I'm always still working on it. It helps me develop the confidence that it is valuable. And I feel like we need some physical feedback in life, like some evidence that it is.
Sure.
That happens through speaking. That happens through sharing your story. The more you share, the more you move the energy, the more you learn, the more it transforms. Everyone's got one.
Awesome.
mean,
I
the,
asked that question because, I'm currently going through some of that imposter syndrome. I have a story I want to tell, but, and help a certain group of people. But I also feel like, well, who the hell am I to go out and talk to anybody? And what credentials do I have? This and that, and just all these limiting beliefs. And I doubt myself. And I feel, a lot of people go through that, and I just need to get over it and just start making the content and putting it out there for people. I want to help people that are going through divorce, men that are navigating divorce. I went through it last year, and, I have a lot to say about it. But I just, at the same point, I'm just like, well, who the hell is going to want to listen to me? I just need to do it.
It's massive in our society, what you just spoke into, like the
Yeah.
amount of men. First of all, I just love men's work, and I feel like we need more support for men in this world, more men's groups, more men feeling like they can be vulnerable and can share around other men what they're going through, because most of us have some kind of battle as a man that we've gone through or are going through. So it's like the more you step into that, the more you give permission to the next guy who's thinking the same thing that you're thinking, like, who am I? That I thought too. And it's just a ripple effect. Yeah, man.
That's all the evidence. And, you just talk about, your story not being relatable. And here you are sitting with the two bearded stepbrothers. And the only thing that ties us together is dolphins at this point, really. So that's what incited the conversation. And we're all here. So there's the evidence. And once you tell your story and so it just resonates with the person that, has that similar experience, it just leads to so many open doors.
You just made me remember one thing, like one kind of motto that I started to really embody is, we are a stage all the time, a living, walking, breathing stage, meaning that, and I learned this as a speaker because I was always like, well, I got to get on the big stage. In our lives, we are stages 100% of the time. You never know who's watching. And I can't count the amount of times where I put something out there and I thought no one's going to watch it. And then like 2 months later, someone sends me a message and they're like, dude, that video you made about that thing, I was having a horrible day and it totally connected for me. So that's helped me and can help many people. Like, if you're always aware of like who you're being and you're, it's not perfection, but it's like the work is important in every moment. There's kids watching, there's people watching, and we think no one is, and we're having an effect all the time on people.
We are walking billboards in the way that we approach people, the way that we talk to people, the things that we say online. It always comes back, whether we think it's just, all for nothing.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it, is we get a platform like this to be able to reach out and find those people that need it the most, whether we're trying or not. It's bound to happen if that's what we believe, and that's where our faith lies.
Totally, man. Aaron, I do have a question for you, because Ryan reminded us of dolphins here, and you had mentioned that you had some kind of dolphin experience that was special to you. I don't know if you're willing to share it all, but
absolutely.
I've been curious what it is, since this is what brought us together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you had told your story about, you being swimming in the dolphins and, having your life-changing experience. And I had a very similar thing last year. I was down in South Jersey, out on the bay. It was the evening, and, leading up to this, my ex-wife and I had been having some challenges, and, just making decisions was tough. I was doubting myself on certain things. And, this night I was just out there, and this pod of dolphins showed up, and I'm just cruising around the bay with them, hanging out for like an hour and just taking in the absolute beauty. The sun was setting, and it was just such a beautiful night, so freaking peaceful. And I realized I need this joy and this excitement in my life. That, I was missing something, and just things weren't the way they should be. And it was just, I made a realization that night that I'd just been putting off, the I don't want to say the inevitable, but just the hard decision of making a big life change, and, telling my wife, I want a divorce, something I was so scared to do, but something that had been back in the back of my mind for so long. And it was so calm that night. And I think I came to peace with that decision. I just decided, this is what I got to do. I can't continue the way I'm living. And I just made that decision that night, and it's been absolutely life-changing. I have changed my life leaps and bounds since that day. So had that day not happened, with that night with those dolphins, I'm not sure where I would be right now. So it was just such an amazing experience for me, and absolutely life-changing.
Wow. I have such a love for the dolphins that's just a special story, man. And I just want to say that if and when you're helping men who have had divorce with that experience, like, you have an amazing story that triggered that, like with dolphins, that literally opened up a feeling in you.
Mm-hmm.
That was the pointer. Simple to, like, it was the same thing for me. It was, first of all, dolphins are one of the highest conscious creatures on the planet. And if you're into like metaphysical stuff, they say that the dolphins carry really ancient wisdom, the dolphin and whales. So when they show up, they have a way of changing our energetic field, and they represent joy. That's like their essence. So it's like when that essence from a person or a dolphin like touches you, and it's like, dude, the same thing happened to me. I was like, this feels amazing. I want more of this in my life. I was looking out at the horizon after swimming with dozens of dolphins in the ocean, and I was in tears. And I just said, I want to see the world more. I want to feel like this more often. How do I bring more passion and joy into my life? It was like that simplicity, nothing in the mind that was like, time to make a move. Just like you, dude. Thank you. That was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
So now, you travel the world searching for purpose. When throughout your journey did you find your purpose? Did you ever find your purpose?
Yeah. All right. We needed to ask this. I'm glad you did, because my thing's always been purpose, and my idea of purpose is always evolving. And I think that that's a very healthy thing. I think that when we start to close the door and conclude on something, you limit what that thing is. Like, you almost shut off the mysticism. So I used to just think purpose was this thing that would make me feel valuable, that would be passionate for me to do, and that I would make a lot of money from. I'd finally be happy, like, as a human being, if I found my purpose. What I've learned through my journey is that is a trap, just as anything else outside of us is a trap. Like, when I get the relationship, the house, the car, the promotion, lose the weight, whatever it is, I'll be a content, happy, fulfilled human being. I do believe we can have many callings. I think that always goes on. Like, our heart and our passions and our gifts can constantly be connecting, and you can have a time over here doing one thing and a time over here, and that's the spiritual journey. But I was really looking for something that I could enjoy in my life that would make me feel fulfilled and lit up. Now, traveling was the purpose for a while. And the other thing I started to learn is that purpose is really a way of being. One of my mentors says, purpose is forged, it's not found. So when you bring yourself in a purposeful way to every single thing you do, like you mean it, with intention, with your full heart open, with your passion, with your energy, you will create purpose in your life no matter what. And lots of purpose will be attracted to that if you are purposeful. And that conditioned part of me that's just looking for his thing to do in life, I was about 3.5 years in, and I was like, God, what is going on? I was like, I have more questions than answers. What's the thing? I wrote you a letter, like, I'm still traveling, and I started to feel aimless. And traveling doesn't fix everything. For me, traveling is a classroom like anything else. You choose your classroom. Wherever you go, there you are. You're still doing your inner work. But I was starting to feel directionless after a while, and I started to feel like a void in my stomach and my solar plexus. And I was like, I'm ready to build something. There was this part of me as a man that wanted to plug into something. I couldn't just travel aimlessly anymore. And then sure enough, like 3.5 years in, I was in a kind of a dark moment again. Like, what was this all for nothing? What am I doing? I was in I was in Japan and Bali, and I didn't know what my next move was. And I decided to come back to Peru because I had good community there. And one of my best friends there said, Mike, she worked at a cafe. She said, we want to start hosting a open mic storytelling night at this cafe where people could come up and they could share a story, a life story, you know, and a lesson. And they said, would you be interested in hosting it? Because we know that you want to speak. I kind of always wanted to speak. I was like, hell yeah. So I ended up hosting these open mic nights like twice a month at this cafe in Peru. And for the first time, it gave me this experiential sensation of speaking in front of a crowd and emceeing. And I had a blast with it. And I started to learn the power of storytelling. And I started seeing people have breakthroughs on stages. They'd all come up and they'd all be nervous and they'd all be like, I don't want to speak. And then they would speak and they'd be like, that was amazing. Oh my God. So I said, there's something to this. So I started to learn the power of storytelling, and then once again showed up like, universe, let's go. A breadcrumb trail started to be laid out of storytelling, and people would invite me to collaborate with them on events. One was like a writing conference. I was like, I'm not a writer. I was like, but storytelling. Yes. What do I need to learn? Read a book on storytelling. Yes. And then out of the blue, I was like, how can I expand on this? And out of the blue one day, a friend tossed me an Instagram video of my mentor, Nick Santanastasso. He's one of the biggest speakers in the world. He has no legs, one arm, one finger. And he'd been on stage with Tony Robbins. Like, guy gets paid like $50,000 an hour to speak. He's huge. And he was doing this free 5-day online challenge called Unleash Your Story. And I was like, God, storytelling. Yes, follow, Mike. I did this challenge and I loved it. And I learned all about storytelling and speaking. And it was all about how to create a professional speaking career. And that led me back to the States to do an in-person training with him, where I got to stand on his stage and present a 20-minute keynote. And they gave me professional photography and video. And again, I got to have this embodied experience that felt like a firewalk, like just it changed me of speaking on stage. And so for me, it's always a feeling. This is like really important. Like, if I could drop any message, I feel that following our passion and our highest excitement, whatever it is in the moment, leads you further on the path that is meant for you. It doesn't always have to be, is this going to make money or is it this? Like, we got to get out of the head. I felt lit up when I was on stage in front of people. I came alive. Like right now, I feel great. I'm like, yes, like I just love speaking. And so that started to unravel. And I was like, I didn't even know you could be a professional speaker. So I just kept following it. And look, this is the path I'm on, and I'm still early on it. I'm in a transition. I'm literally living with my parents right now, temporarily for some support. I'm working part-time at a steakhouse, and I'm applying to stages, and I'm working on my keynotes, and I'm excited about what I'm doing. And I'm excited about sharing my story. And I still can't tell you it's going to look like this or that, you know what I mean? But like, I know that I got something here. And I know that my journey did arrange me now, and that patience is a virtue. And 3.5 years in, I felt like I didn't know. And with faith and patience, boom, the next self-illuminating step showed up. And now I'm doing this.
That is amazing. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
Early on, you mentioned, chasing the red pill or the blue pill, and that feeling of chasing the unknown is kind of where a lot of that comes from, is just excitement and new things and new challenges. And if we stay with whichever color pill it was, that we already know what the outcome was because we've been there, it's really hard to stay there.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you really value growth, most people want to be something, do something, change, but aren't willing to do the work. If you're going to meet the next version of yourself, that dude, that woman is in the unknown. Yep. It's where everything exists that you have not conditioned yourself for. It's outside your conditioning. So you have to make moves and learn to embrace fear and the unknown. Like, you're having a compelling vision of where you want to go is like, you either have that or you're just throwing your past in your present again and again and again.
Yeah,
You-
one of the learnings I love, or one of the sayings I really love, and something I should have added to my dolphin story there. Something I realized that day is the change for me was when I realized the fear of staying the same became greater than the fear of change. For so long, I had this huge fear of change, and then finally, just one day, and it was that day where I fear staying the same, so I am ready for the change.
And look what happened, right? Did you
Yeah.
experience a shift in your life?
So
Yeah.
what can you share on, you talk about a transition period, and starting over comes with those transition periods. So how do we know in a transition period when to continue to applying pressure versus when to have a new start?
Yeah. Yeah, this is a good question because I went through all those years in corporate and never moved. And there was a time where it was like, you need to make a move, and everything was shouting at me about that. But then there's this other side that I was kind of speaking into before, which is really embracing where you're at and knowing there's no mistakes here. Because we can think that everything's going wrong and I'm not supposed to be here and I missed the mark or I have a regret or I'm not doing all I should. Very common human beliefs. But really, the more that we embrace where we are, and that there are many lessons and learnings and information making us stronger, greater, directing us, the more you can embrace that, the quicker you will move on to the next phase of where you need to go. If you have resistance to where you are, this ain't right, I'm a victim, it's everybody else, it's not me, I just can't catch a break, I don't do anything different every day, like I know I need to do some things and think different, but I just won't, and I'm always down on myself, like it won't move. If you're like, yes, please, and thank you. Thank you for this horrible feeling. Thank you for my heavy heart. Thank you for the frustration I'm going through that my environment's not perfect. Thank you for right now I'm not in my ideal environment, but I'm being supported in every way that I need to so that I can create right now. And I see that clearly, right? So it's gratitude, it's embracing the current situation. But I feel it's kind of like a little bit of a dance and a personal feeling that comes when there is a move you can make, and you'll start to know what that is. That will come into your field if you're intentional and you're embracing your situation, but you know kind of where you want to go. At least you will have opportunities show themselves to you to take the next step. And it's at that point, it's like, do you take the next step or do you miss it? And do you just say, I'm just going to stay in comfort? Like the Dolphins showed me the next step. My misery every day of an environment that wasn't working built so much. Like our emotions tell us where to go. They're like, this isn't working. You got to do something. But yeah, man, it's not a black and white thing, because it's like that balance of really like valuing and the gratitude of where you're at, but also like, okay, be on the lookout for where you want to go next. What do you want to do? For me, it's like, I know I got to apply to stages right now, and I got to put myself out there, and I got to speak a lot if I want to be a speaker. And there was a time where I was kind of procrastinating on that, and that's just a common sense thing. That's like, you got to become and do the thing of the person you want to be, where you want to go, so you got to get up. Yeah.
That's some great stuff. And just to tie this off, I want to relate to a dolphin story. Last weekend we were down at Tybee Island, Georgia, and we walk out on the pier and we're excited, we're ready, we're prepared. We've got everything that we need to go catch fish. We set up on the pier, and the guy next to us, he's been there a while. He's local guy. He's fished this pier a lot. He says, "Oh, those damn dolphins show up. The fish are going away." And I said, "Well, not always." I was like, if the dolphins show up, that means there's at least fish, right? And we caught a couple fish. We had a great day fishing. The reason I bring this up is that perspective of which side do you want to look at? Are you going to look at the optimism side, or are we going to look at the pessimism side?
Mm-hmm.
And last week I was kind of faced with one of these opportunities, right? And I've for 2 years, Aaron knows kind of the whole backstory. I've talked about building a software company, and I've focused on it. I've worked on it. I've embraced the suck. I knew what I was good at. I knew it was going to be hard, and I did it anyway. And I had this opportunity come up where somebody's giving me kind of an ultimatum of, do you want to just give it up and come with me? Or you could go and do the hard thing and just do it yourself. And it was a lot of what we talked about is I'm not doing it by myself. I know that I need a team. I know that I need good people. I know that I can, if I'm asking for these people, I can find them. And I went through this call with the guy. We talked about it. I had another call with him, and something didn't feel right. And it's like, okay, are you going to embrace the suck and know that it is hard and this opportunity could yield, or are you going to give it up and go the other way? And it's still an unknown outcome, but is that better than throwing away something you worked on for 2 years? And that night, I just pen and paper wrote stuff down. I wrote, I think, 3 or 4 pages in my journal with a Bible open and my notebook right next to it. And I start writing stuff down. And I got online. I start looking and searching, and I found somebody that I really think I want to work with. And we start, roadmaps and outlines and workflows. And it just talked about earlier that distance of time of you need to make a change, you need to do something different. Is it going to take 2 more years, or is it going to happen as soon as you apply some pressure to it? And the 2, I guess, pieces of advice that I'd like to share with that is the embrace the suck is, yes, it's hard, but you can get through it. And are you dedicated or are you consistent? My mentor and I were in the gym one morning, early in the morning. We were, ready to get to it. He's got a sign, vinyl stickers on the wall that says dedication. And we think about being dedicated in the gym. Yeah, we're ready to be fit. We're ready to get it on. We're going to get, lose all that summer weight or winter weight and get ready for the summer. But if we're not consistent, that dedication almost just all for nothing.
Yeah. Beautiful, man. Yeah. Consistency, dude. It's going to show you everything. Mm-hmm. Like that is that I feel like the consistency is the true devotion in action, and one thing I love that you said, Ryan, is that you felt something with these guys, and then you took the time to journal about it and surround yourself with even the things that spoke to you most, like the Bible. And when we, I'll just leave it, like this last thought is, we all have our own inner roadmap within that is pointing us exactly where to go. It's a matter of really dedicating and taking the time to get to know that inner self and that map. Like, we have all the wisdom that we need. We don't need more books, more programs, more people with processes. I think they're helpful. They're research. Take what resonates, discard the rest. But like, we get to trust that feeling that you spoke about. That's the intangible. That's like, I can't see the thing that makes sense, but like, my feelings telling me this way. And then apply the healthy pressure and like write out what you're feeling and what's coming through. It's all there. Thank you for saying that. Yeah,
it's great what you say, just about, that bitterness and that feeling like a victim and feeling like nothing's going to change, or, just thinking about, okay, this is not great right now, but if we keep going and keep going and keep going and with some of that pursuit of passion, you can change not just your life, but so many around you. And I think that's everything, everything that you said tonight was hit right to home. And we truly appreciated talking to you, and got to ask, kind of what's next, or what's coming up, I guess is a good one for you. Do you have any good events planned? Where are you going to be speaking?
Yeah, well, actually, I just booked an event today that I'm really excited about. It's called the New Life Expo in New York, and it's in November. And I don't remember the exact dates because I just booked it a couple hours ago. And it's a big health, wellness, spiritual conference that I think attracts thousands of people. You could probably look it up online, New Life Expo. And I'm going to be speaking at that. And my big vision for the future, the near future, right? Because I'm going to apply a little pressure and not just sit on it, is being able to travel again with the purpose of speaking. My dream is to still be able to enjoy the travels and the beauty of the world, but go somewhere knowing that I'm co-collaborating and creating an event, a retreat, speaking, doing what I love, and just enjoying all of those aspects while being in service and giving back. So here I am in Connecticut, in the house where I grew up. They say the treasure is under the family tree. It's where our work is done. And sooner than later, I know that I'm going to have many events lined up and get to be traveling again and speaking my truth and what I love.
Awesome.
That's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a blast, guys.
Well, Mike, if if anybody wants to find you, you'll follow you on social media, where can people find you?
Yeah, best place is my website, which is wakeupwithmike.com. I've got some offerings on there, ways to contact me, and then social media. I'm at Wake Up with Mike on Instagram, TikTok. I am Mike Rosenberg, Facebook, Michael Rosenberg. Yeah, on all the things.
Cool. We'll throw all that in the description for you.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been such a great conversation. I really appreciate you making the time to sit down and talk with us for this hour. It's been very refreshing. So thank you so much.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Mike. Absolute joy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate you guys so much. It was a lot of fun for me. Thank you.
Great. We'll have to do
All
it
right.
again. I'm sure there's plenty more
Sure.
stories.
You just let me know when.
Absolutely.
Sounds good, Mike. All right. Well, we wish you the best of luck on your journey, and it's all going to work out. I'm so thrilled to see what happens for you.
Thank you, guys.
All
Thanks,
right.
Mike.
You have a great rest of your night.
See ya.
Yep.